Gordo here from Gordo's Games, and we're back for some Digimon TCG content today. So this is, first of all, just a big thank you to, we have just broke past our most recent milestone, which is 60 subscribers, and that is all thanks to all of you. So very much appreciated there. Thank you for the support. We do this so that we can help you learn the game, enjoy the game, see our takes on the game, and generally just help Digimon itself build as we go along. And it's been a long journey, a lot of things, a lot of events, a lot of changes in the game, and that's what we were here talking about today. So obviously, as you've all done so far, if you do enjoy the content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you know when this content goes live for you. And let's get into it. So the Digimon TCG came to us back in 2020, and since then it's expanded massively. We're now currently, well, for those in the US, are currently in BT12. UK soon to join them. Those that may have some products already, but yeah, we'll be joining them soon on that horizon. Overall, the game's gone through drastic changes from back in the day of 1.0 of having a limited card pool, where your most played decks were just Turbo Omni, which factored in just numerous vanillas to make it as cheap as possible just to get into that level 7 and take game. And we've gone through different archetypes, different Digimon being involved. Obviously there's a high popularity in certain archetypes, that being that of the Agumon and War Greymon theme, and obviously these being protagonists of Digimon overall, they're heavily used. There's going to be a massive room for Digimon to be included in the game and different things to be involved, and I think people are waiting to see that. But one of the biggest things at the moment is around the events that we've got. So, and there's been obviously conversations around the pricing you get if you attend regionals. So if you look at the breakdown of pricing, like regional pricing overall isn't fantastic. Most people would consider Ultimate Cup's pricing to be a lot more enticing. But the problem falls with that then, with the rules that are implied for Ultimate Cup. Now, whether these are good or bad for the game, they do seem to be pushing us into a very monocolour society. Which kind of does push back on the whole reason for the game. They've gone through adding multicoloured cards into the game. They are supporting some older decks by adding in cards that are off colour, and at the same time they're eliminating some decks completely from the format. Now this obviously is to change up the kind of meta, so it's not all just one blank canvas. This is the meta, and I did completely understand that to an extent. But just eliminating some of those decks when they've just been released and not even given them a chance to be involved almost null and voids them outside of attending just the regional prizing, regionals itself, which most people do when they do obviously enjoy the competitive scene. They will look to attend those, but it's almost painful towards the fact of like you are almost forced into another deck. And it might not be your first choice, it might not be the most optimal choice, but you're just like, okay, this is the only thing I have available to me. And this is a game, it does question the fact, is this what Bandai wants? And has the surge of things like security control, something they didn't cater for in any sort of fashion, potentially put the game in a position where it does want to go monocolour, it does want to take out other things from it. And Ultimate Cup just seems to keep pushing this more and more. So we had originally the rulings which did eliminate some of the top contenders. So you have the meta decks for the OTK, so like Grandis, Melga, and all those kind of variants there. They were hit, and initially they did obviously eliminate them from being used. There were still people who used them. So for instance, Grandis was used on Mario in one of the events he played in, so he did take a variation of Grandis, which he did well with. To just goes to show it can still be played, but it's not obviously at full capacity. The thing that goes with this though is like now the next lot of Ultimate Cup rules have come out, and obviously they've now restricted further things to it. Modified rules. So single colour deck building with Mulligan, as we know, players must construct a deck and Digi-Egg deck using cards of only one colour. So it seems as if they are just looking to push us into a deck list that just can side up one colour and match the eggs. Multi-colour cards with a matching colour are also legal for use. So they do leave some room for wiggle room, but it does affect some decks that don't have the multicolour option to it. They're just an off colour. For example, Imperial, Cross Hearts, Hunter. These decks are all based on multicolours or being off colours from each other, and they don't function. You can't play them to an extent. Imperial without the green side of it is just it's nearby pointless. You might as well just play the old Imperial that includes no DNA Digivolving at that stage. So there are limited things from it. Actually, going into the next set comes after BT12, you will have the Turbo Omni deck, including I think the top end of that is Blitz Greymon and Krez Greymon. That deck is null and void because the Omni's won. So you can't play that deck in any sort of fashion, and it just eliminates the use of it at all outside of regional or just your local environment. And it's quite obviously disappointing, really, because you don't want to see decks just eliminated from use, or just consider as okay, well, this is only useful to me in this sort of format. Otherwise, I have to play some monocolour. So, moving on to the additional restricted list. So, restricted to 1 copy per deck. Promo Grand Commander 1, same as before. Chaos Degradation, same as before. And then we have the new additions here, which is EX3 045 Hydramon. And then we have EX2039 Impmon. Now the Impmon was to be expected. Obviously, Impmon is one of the closest things to Tier 0. It's definitely not Tier 0 because there are matchups that are not favourable for that deck at all. So it is a very strong strong Tier 1 contender, absolutely. But I expected some form of hit to that to slow it down. But Hydramon itself, when they did the last lot of Ultimate Cups, Bloomlord Hydramon was a very favoured pick because the deck was unscathed. They couldn't run the Chimeras, but other than that, they were good to do whatever they wanted. The deck functioned as it would normally, and it proved to do just that. It did perform well overall. Obviously, some things did counter, tech to beat that matchup, which was a nice showing overall. The level of involvement people did to tech out that deck. But the deck was clearly in high demand and played to a good fashion, which has led to the deck being hit in some capacity. Maybe just to balance it out, but overall, the deck is still going to function. There's going to be Quartzmon still a thing, because the additional ban lists on this. So this are cards that are completely banned. You can't use a tool. So Death Exmon. It was ironic because obviously Bloomlord and Hydra being unscathed in it, Death Exmon was like the answer to that wide board outside of some of the other techs that came into play. So this was taken out of the equation, which gave it even more free roam. You then have Wergroom Ex-Ante, so Melga's Ex-Ante 4 but level 5 got taken out of it completely, not just limited down to a 1. And then you had Cerberus Werewolf mode, so the one that does fit into things like Minerva Loop, things like that. The one against 9 costs and Rush. So all these things were implemented for the Ultimate Cup, and it just is the next thing going to be. We go through this event, Quartzmon is going to dominate, and Quartzmon immediately goes into the ban list. It almost feels like we're just tailoring a ban list just for Ultimate Cup. So anything that does specifically well is going through the stages of, if you perform too well, your cards will be banned. Your deck will be hit in some format. And is that a good environment to be in? Just tailoring a ban list overall off of decks that have done well in the format they've designed, off of people not overly happy with how those decks have performed and how long they've been in the meta. Because if we do, we're eventually going to start running out of decks, so we're just going to be left with mediocre decks that people either don't want to play, or the fact of their decks they really like, which would be great to have some laughs with and that, but they're not overall a competitive deck, but they're being forced into being competitive to some extent. But enough on that. Overall, the game Digimon has expanded loads, and there's multiple different functions, Digicross, DNA Digivolve, Ace mechanics that are coming into the game, and a lot of things on the horizon. They're all very positive for us overall, but there are some concerns around because we don't have masses of events to be able to enjoy the game to some competitive standpoint. Are we missing out because of the fact of we restricting it in the 50% of our events? Because the only thing we have currently obviously is generally your locals, or you have regionals or Ultimate Cup, where you're diversely changed into how you have to approach these things and how you have to approach these metas. Off the back of this, we will be looking to do a Ultimate Cup tier list, going over what kind of things you'd be looking to take, or what kind of things you're looking to avoid overall within that meta. The other thing to mention is how, obviously, I did want to bring up is how do you all feel about how Bandai deal with their ban lists? One thing I have come to disagree with is just generally how they bring their ban lists in a week or two into a set. Now, we already are completely aware of that there's problematic cards in the meta, where I'm not disputing the bans that take place. It's more a problem of how those bans are implemented. Given somebody their full capacity to deck at full strength. For example, we're going to take Greymon X here to consideration, and then Cross 4. These were two fundamental cards within two archetypes, which did a lot to make the decks function in a very good capacity. These were seen as problems across in the JP meta, and obviously transferred into ours as being problematic, but not completely meta defining. Greymon X did a lot of work, absolutely 100%. The card is amazingly strong, not going to question it, and obviously it was future proofing for the fact of BT12 when we get the Melt Greymon and you were evoing for one cost, because that tempo alone it was massive. Completely understandable ban, but given it us 2-3 weeks into the set, meaning that we're going to have to adapt for no real reason really. You could have just banned this at the very start of it, but you've let the player base go ahead and try and fetch their cards, try and source their rolls, various different things like that, and they're taking their time to try and build this deck how they want to. Then 2 weeks later you decided we're going to hit this card now. Yes, you've got to change your deck by the end of the month. It's now restricted. Now, like I said, these bans and restrictions I don't disagree with to an extent, but how they're implemented just really kind of ruins how people would perceive the game itself, just generally having to chop and change things. And there's nothing wrong with changing the game, but why even give the players the initiative to use the deck at full strength to then hinder them when you know you're going to ban it? Because these are all preemptive bans, we know they are. We all sat there expecting these things to happen, and when the last ban list came into effect, it was obviously all but hilarious just seeing the one card on there, Greymon X. But yeah, let me know your comments down below. As always, thank you for tuning to Gordo's Games. Thank you for your continued support. If you do like the content, like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications so you know when this great content goes live here and all these lovely rants. But overall, I'll catch you next time.